Welcome back to Straight Facts. It's Monday morning, and I can't lie, people. Life without the Premier League is very drab. Especially when you're only beating Andorra 2-1. I don't know how the Irish got on this weekend, Jamie, but England, we won, but it was bad. It was, especially watching Harry Kane run around like an old age pensioner. It was bad. It was certainly bad. But we're here this morning. Loads of stories to go through with the Premier League returning. We're talking about now after the transfer window. Who are the title favourites? Are Arsenal better than Liverpool, as some of the gooners on the Football Terrace have claimed in the last week? Are we going to see some dark horses this year? For instance, will Chelsea kind of pop up in this title race? Are people writing City off too early? We're getting the boys' perspectives on that. We're looking at Tottenham. They state this morning they're not for sale. The likes of Staveley and co have said they're not interested in buying the club, although it's been reported that they had bid or made an inquiry to buy the club. But are Tottenham actually up for sale? There's some interesting takes on that. Plus, we're looking at Man United. New deals for not just Kobbie Mainoo, but Amorim as well are being reported. So we're talking about those stories today. But morning, Jamie. Morning, Jords. How are you both?
Very well.
All good. All good. Is my audio working now? I think it wasn't working there.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, it's all good.
No, yeah, it wasn't working there when we were starting. But yeah, all good. Can't complain. Ireland, we got a 2-2 draw against Hungary, but they were down to 10 men in the second half. So it was good. You know what? It was actually good.
What sort of stuff I've been seeing regarding Doherty, Jamie? Because I don't know. I don't know if it's just Spurs Twitter, but his name is everywhere and they're not happy.
No, yeah, he was awful the other night. I see some people were saying we would have been better off playing with 8 men. He was that bad, like. But no, I think see the thing is with Ireland is we actually have some decent footballers. Like Keller's a good keeper, Collins, O'Brien at right back, Ferguson up front. Our midfield is so bad though; it's so poor. And Doherty is like someone he's playing left back, which is not his natural position. And yeah, I think he's just past it now. You know what I mean? It's just someone he's going to be there, but. No, I think it was a good result. We actually played better than Hungary for most part. We were 2-0 down after 15 minutes, and then we were struggling to obviously get back. We got an early goal. They got a man sent off, and then we scored in the 93rd minute to get a draw. So if we beat Hungary away, then likelihood is we'll finish second. Then it'll come down to whoever doesn't get pumped the most by Portugal. In the end.
Yeah, I always like to see the Irish do well. It says it's my son's team as well. So, I would like to see him do well, but
we never do.
Well, do you know what? I still remember I was in a bar in Dundalk in Ireland the night that Henri did the handball, and I have never listen. I've been an England fan where we've been angry. The disallowed goal against Portugal, the disallowed goal against Argentina, the not given goal against Germany, Lampard. I've had some moments where we felt really aggrieved at big tournaments, qualifications, but I've never seen people as angry as the Irish were that night, and I joined in with them. Because I had to make sure they knew, even as an Englishman, I'm on their side. So I really went. I was with them. It was wrong, but I really went in because I was like, I need to show them there's no where exactly where my loyalty lies. Because I'm not lying. I was sitting there and I was like, I feel really vulnerable. Interestingly, you can sit there in an England jersey, a rugby top, and you can beat Ireland in Ireland, cheer, and everyone goes, that's all right, and shakes your hand. Football brings out a different type of reaction from people. So I was like, oh, my God. It was crazy. But morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all very, very well indeed, wherever you're watching from around the world. I wanted to start off with your club this morning, Jords, because Daniel Levy, it looks like he was pushed, sacked rather than walked, but the club are saying, like, step down. I think he was sacked. Big weird reports last night that from Amanda Staveley. Amanda Staveley is the woman who looks like a cat that helped the Saudis buy. She looks like, I can't remember her name. She looks like, I think her name's Lioness from the Hunger Games. She really reminds me of her.
Oh yeah.
She really reminds me of her. But yeah, she made a statement saying the club isn't for sale, which I thought was that her consortium will not be making the bid. ENIC, though, have come out today and released a statement that their shares in the club are not for sale, but confirmed that they've rejected approaches from the likes of Amanda Staveley. So it all feels, from an outsider looking in, it feels a little confusing. Why would someone release a statement saying they've got no interest in buying a club just for that party, just for Tottenham Hotspur essentially to release a statement saying we've rejected approaches from those same very people? Does it feel like you're not for sale, or is this public negotiations going on to try and drive up the best price possible?
Yeah, I think this is, for me, public negotiations. I think both businesses are very smart and they're very calculated in the actions that they take. Amanda Staveley is someone who's very experienced in takeovers, having obviously been the person to lead the Newcastle takeover, but I've heard she was also involved in the Man City takeover back in the day. So she's very well versed in maneuvering these deals, and for someone who's so experienced, I would imagine that she wouldn't express an interest in buying a club that she wasn't too sure would be up for sale. We've known that Spurs have had talks with the Saudis, the Qataris, and all these other people over the years regarding whether it's minority investments or majority takeovers. I think that they're smart enough to know that when they make this interest public, or if they make this interest known to Spurs, that there must be a feeling from Spurs that they're willing to accept that. Now, for myself and for fans like us, what does this really mean? Like we know with the Glazer takeover, like we know the Chelsea takeover, it doesn't mean anything for at least another next 6 to 12 months, because whether a deal does actually proceed, it's going to be a very long time before there's any concrete change to Tottenham or even the deal proceeding. So nothing to be alert to right now, but it is, some positive news in the sense that a lot of people are not happy with ENIC. A lot of people wanted ENIC out. Like the majority of like the protests and the people that were upset with Levy were upset with ENIC as a company, not just Levy. Obviously, he's the guy, and some people call it the scapegoat, just being the head of the lamb. But ultimately, yeah, like it could mean good, it could mean nothing. Like, it's one of those things that you just take with a pinch of salt right now, because until there's anything concrete to the fact that Spurs have accepted a bid, it's all just talk, and it's all just sort of a game of chess between the two parties.
Were you Levy out, Jords?
I was Levy out, but I wasn't one of the people that was like protesting or going mad about every day. I personally like to focus on the football, things that we can actually analyze, and what the owner's doing you can't necessarily analyze because you don't know exactly what they've done behind the closed door. So I was Levy out, but I wasn't one of the biggest people championing it. I can't say that.
Yeah, because it'll be interesting. Obviously, if they sell, then that'll be different. But obviously, some of the talk was saying that Joe Lewis was the one that had like the final say in a lot of like the big spending and what way they wanted to go. So now that Levy is gone, it'll be interesting to see if if he does stay, if they change like the transfer approach and they maybe spend a bit more, maybe increase the wages and stuff, because obviously they have the facilities for it now. But yeah, obviously I think Daniel Levy, because he was the front man, kind of took a lot of the grief, but it'll be interesting to see if they do change it.
Yeah, definitely, Dad. And the one thing I would add to that is like you said the club is now being taken over in a sense of there's a whole new leadership team. So for many people that have not been happy with ENIC, it could be a stance that like in the next few months we may see a fresh Tottenham anyway, because there is no Levy. A lot of the time people believe that Levy was the guy behind the tough negotiations, the guy that's putting in extra clauses into deals and making it just a complete mess. And the one that was always like when we saw the Eze deal, just penny pinching. So with him not at the helm and Peter Charrington, Vinay, and so on, we may see a different Spurs anyway and a different approach. So don't necessarily need a takeover to see a huge change, and we could see that without that. So it's just one of those ones, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting? I've heard a lot about Levy this week, and I've even seen Arsenal fans. So I think Matt, an Arsenal fan on socials, sort of praising him and saying he deserves credit. I heard a really good breakdown from a Spurs podcast where they sort of said, look, if you look at the first 10 to 15 years, it almost can't be faulted. And it's an interesting one because you get a lot of Villa fans and Newcastle fans that say, FFP stops you from catching the big boys financially. It's a lie. If you actually go and look what Tottenham were turning over 10, 15 years ago, it was only 20 or 30 million more a year than Villa were at the time. Spurs are now turning over in terms of income. They're in the same ballpark as all the biggest teams in Europe. And I think Levy's done a fantastic job in that area of the pitch. But I also feel that it's the right time now for Daniel Levy and Spurs to look to either ENIC continue to own the club, and I think ENIC have got to assess it this way. I think long term they're interested in selling it for maximum profit. Whether that's whilst I know Joe Lewis isn't officially the owner on paper, but we all know how that works with family business. Do you know what I'm saying? I had some good friends of mine that every 4 or 5 years, the ownership of their businesses changed, and a cousin brother came in and whatever else. But we all knew the owner was, even if their name wasn't on company's house, etc. But I feel like ENIC have got to weigh this up. Do they now go for a few new people running the club because the money's there to go? Can we find someone now, sort of Edwards level at Liverpool, that can just start making you win those big trophies? Because from a value perspective, if Spurs could now move into, but they've got the money to, the income is there. If they could now start to build teams that you then grow from that starts winning you more major trophies, you're in London, you've got that superb modern new stadium. I still think ENIC's ambition is to sell you in 5, 10, 15 years time for maximum profit. But I think they've got to weigh it up. Do we cash in now where the club is, or do we bring someone else in, maybe some more investment, but do we bring someone in to run the club day to day that can get us nearer to those Prem titles consistently in the Champions League, winning a Champions League, because the valuation of your football club is then going to go through the roof. And I've always looked at it this way. I don't really want owners that buy clubs to make a profit in 10, 20, 30 years time. But if they're going to do that, as long as you're winning trophies along the way, it's a compromise, if that makes sense. I think most Liverpool fans know FSG at some point are selling them for a major profit, as an example. INEOS will eventually sell Man United for a profit in their eyes. But if they get us back to winning Prems, Champions Leagues, making us a very good football team on the pitch, I think most people can just go, it's not ideal. We'd all love a super rich fan who only cares about winning trophies. But that's just not the modern day owner, if I'm being honest. But I'm worried about Spurs being taken over. I'm not sure about you, Jamie. I do look at them as a little bit, now they've got the money, they've got the income, which is 700 million plus a year. That's without really being in the Champions League regularly. If they can become a regular Champions League team, now that 5 qualify from the Prem on a regular basis, if they were to bring in people akin to the likes of Michael Edwards, bring in some top class sporting directors, I do worry. I do worry, because then they might get themselves, even if they sell it, and they do sell it to a Saudi ownership or a Qatari ownership, it's not going to be like Newcastle, where they've got FFP problems for the first 10 years. You go into a Tottenham and they could spend massively straight away. Market value of deals. Listen, no disrespect to Newcastle, big club. Tottenham, though, from a fan base point of view, which is what this is all about for market value, 5 times, 10 times as big globally, minimum, in my opinion. You see that in the turnover. How much do you think they could sell the naming rights for a stadium for? How much do you think they could sell the shirt sponsor, the short sponsor, the sock sponsor, the grass sponsor, the dugout sponsor? They'll make so much money. You could push Spurs to an 800-900 million pound a year turnover club, and then they're going to spend that on players. And I do worry about Spurs if they do get that next level of ownership, investment, or people running the club, because they've got the financial clout now to hurt and challenge everyone.
Yeah, I think the only thing holding them back before was ambition. Do you know what I mean? I think the thing is, and what you were saying there about Newcastle and Aston Villa and trying to get that level, the hardest part of that is continuity. And that's what Daniel Levy brought them, in terms of like being consistent in terms of the approach that he wanted to obviously bring in for Spurs to get them to be a powerhouse in terms of revenue that they are now. So I think now it's kind of that next step, and whether he was pushed out or he left of his own accord, whatever it was. But I think the questions you can ask now is like, do they have the ambition as an ownership group in terms of the ones that they currently have, or are they going to bring someone else in? Because the structure is there. Do you know what I mean? When you talk about, as you said, revenue, the stadium, the ground, the fan base, everything they have is available to them to be able to go on and take that kind of next step. And then from most fans' perspective, they'll feel now that Levy's gone is that they don't have someone holding them back. So it's like it'll come down to what ambition the current ownership has.
Yeah. And the thing is, with that ambition, it is supposedly said that like the people that are now in charge, like you said, it's that Joe Lewis is in charge, but apparently his kids and so on are sort of in charge of the consortium that leads Spurs and ENIC. Now, apparently they're more ambitious. They're Spurs fans, and they're football people that are trying to lead us going forward. So I hope that the ambition is matched now, and that we do have true ambition to put sporting success at the forefront. But there's always going to be reservations around that, and we can only dream of that being the truth because it's always been, well, in my lifetime anyway, nothing that agrees with Spurs. So let's see on that.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree. Let's go to some of the comments here. This here says, Levy will be difficult to replace a proper CEO, and Spurs fans will soon discover his actual value to the club.
It's funny, though, because people, like, it's kind of, you're right and you're wrong, because if you think about when he was there, all, like, fans of not, like, say, rival fans would say, haha, you have, like, Levy in charge, is like, his bottle trophies, whatever it is. And, like, now that he's gone, rival fans say, "Oh well, you had to respect everything that he done for the club, and like you're gonna miss him and stuff." Do you know what I mean? You can't. It's win-win, lose-lose. But I think you can appreciate what he done, and then criticize him for maybe the things that he didn't do to maybe take him to the next level. Like you can do both. Do you know what I mean?
I agree. It's as simple as that. Really, I agree.
My analogy is this, right? So this happens a lot. Onana's just gone to Turkey, and I saw a lot of conversations yesterday that were, Terry, people like yourself were wrong for saying Onana had to go, man. Sorry, for saying De Gea had to go. Look how bad Onana's been. And I don't ever want to sound horrible when people say that, but I sit there and just think, oh, it's like I'm talking to a 5-year-old. Because the analogy I've always given is this, and it's the same with Daniel Levy leaving. I think Spurs need a new CEO. If they replace him with, I think what they'll end up doing is a new CEO with a new sporting director, and I think they're working a little bit like United are with Barada and Walcott. They'll do something along those lines, but I think it will be people from a footballing background already. If they fail, removing Daniel Levy wasn't the mistake. It's a bad replacement is the mistake. So if my gearbox on my car is breaking, and I take it to a garage, and that garage damaged my car further, the mistake wasn't trying to fix my car. The mistake was picking the wrong garage. And I think we get into that conversation a lot. So they're only going to miss Levy if they make a bad hire. If they make a better hire, then it's going to be it is the right decision to move on. It's all about the recruitment for me. I think that's going to be a very, very, very.
Well, just on that, Terry, we're not actually going to hire anyone to replace him. So what they have said is that we've got a non-executive chairman, Peter Charrington, who's come in from the Citibank. He's going to be the guy leading us from an ENIC perspective, but he's non-exec. And then we are going to be continuing with Vinay. I think Vinay is the new CEO, and he's sort of the guy replacing Levy's role.
Yeah, well, again, that's probably the only concern, because again, Arsenal fans look at him as one of the reasons that they went backwards. But maybe again, I don't know enough about what he did at Arsenal. I'm only going by what I've read from them online. That's a good update there. The tube system is on strike today. Okay, fair enough. Yes, I heard that it is on strike today. I actually had a mate of mine in one of my group chats where the guys used to work with in the bank. And he's like, "Oh, I'm so late for a meeting. I forgot there was a tube strike. I had to walk 45 minutes from Moorgate." I was like, when I read that, I didn't even reply because I'm busy. I came out. I was like, I'm so glad I don't have to do that commuting no more, man. I tell you, we're losing touch with. We are losing touch with what was our game. Talking consistently about finance and compliance, and we'll all switch off. I'll be honest with you. I think people switch off from it because it's complicated and they don't think it's important, but it's a fundamental part of what we do. I know everybody prefers let's talk tactics and let's talk what's happening on the pitch. The problem is long format content now exists. So we have to talk about the length and breadth of a football club. And I'll give you an example of this, Nathan, and why I don't see this as we're losing sight of what we used to do. In the 50s, Sir Matt Busby spent the summer in America on holiday and doing whatever else. He came back, and his first meeting he had with the board at Man United was, we need to put boxes into the stadium. When people talk about what innovations came in football, boxes didn't exist at stadiums, that kind of hospitality type day out for people. Now, what's really interesting is people look at it as like a modern day phenomenon, the prawn sandwiches, middle class people. So Matt Busby in the 50s came back from the States saying, I was watching, I don't know what sport he was watching. I don't remember that part of the story, but he essentially came back and said, we've got to add these boxes in, because then what we can do is forget the normal everyday customer that will still buy their tickets. We can then sell those boxes in our hospitality to the wealthier people and make more money, which I can then spend on better players to make the football team better. So why I've always cared about the finances and how clubs are run is that you will never find you can't find a poorly run club financially, business-wise, successful on the pitch. Equally, every club that is successful on the pitch is run brilliantly off the pitch. So I think it's equally as important for football fans to understand what's going on at board level, financial level, as it is the way your manager wants to play and train his team. Because I can't find an example through football history where you have sustained long-term quality and success on the field when elements off the pitch are run badly. So I think it's absolutely imperative. When you say it sounds like the beginning of the end, see, what this tells me, Nathan, is you didn't listen to what I just said, which is fair. You don't have to listen to me. The 1950s is the earliest story this started. Why is football going to die in 2025, 75 years later, if this has been going on that whole time? It's a bit like the Isak lie. Oh, Isak's going to set a new precedent for players going on strike. It could kill football as we know it. Well, the earliest player I remember going on strike was Pierre Van Hooijdonk 30 years ago. It's a lie. So don't be suckered into thinking every week is the Armageddon of football. It's a nonsense, my friend. I think it's very important for football fans to understand what's going on in the football, and finances are the amount of people angry at Liverpool this year, Jamie, because they don't understand how you've been able to spend 450 million. If they just took some time to learn and listen, they'd probably enjoy the transfer window a little more, you know?
But you know what I hate as well? It keeps on coming back to it. It's like Liverpool spent 500 million. But like, if you actually think about it, we've gutted a title winning squad and sold players for what, 260 million. So in terms of like actual outlay, and I'm not really, in terms of net spend, I think obviously like there's pros and cons to it, right? But at the end of the day, like if Liverpool have sold majority of players that like have helped them win the league or replaced them in terms of like say Kirkes and Robertson. So like there's like people will say whatever they want, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's like you just have to take everything with a pinch of salt, I suppose.
Yeah, it's football. Football's a bit strange like that now. Nathan also says because we're watching robots who have no emotional attachment. It's like watching Robot Wars. So you are talking about the players on the outside, the players on the pitch. Yeah, football's gone through that period, which I find so interesting. The amount of people that I've watched talk about how Pep's the most innovative manager ever, and everybody wanted to play his style, and that makes him the greatest ever. In the next breath, they moan about how boring and robotic football has come. So I sit there sometimes and I'm like, the same reason that they try to put him above your Cloughies and your Paisleys and your Shankleys, your Busbys, your Fergies, your Wengers, is the same very reason these people are saying they don't like football anymore. Which is there's one great thing to come out of that. It's, well, from a legacy point of view, we know which legacy was better. The one that's left a generation of football fans buzzing for the future versus ones that are saying, I hate the way the way football's going. So maybe there's something in that. Because one thing you can't fake is excitement, and no matter how much you try. But viewers, listen, do us a favor and hit that like button, please, and make sure you are subscribing. Two other stories I wanted to touch on today, gents. Obviously, I'll put it into the group chat. Big stories going around today, discussed hugely on the United Stand this morning, that United are contemplating a new deal for Ruben Amorim, whilst also working on the deal for Kobbie Mainoo. And we'll start off with Ruben Amorim. What does this mean for Man United's long-term project if Ruben Amorim is to get an extension or a new deal? What does this say to you, gents? I'll go to you first, Jords.
Quite frankly, madness. It's madness. Like to me, what it shows is that under INEOS, your club has moved no further forward than it was a few years ago. I remember when we spoke under Terry, when me and Terry used to speak before any of the takeover stuff. And Terry was one of the people that definitely said that, you know, it's not a process that changes within a year or two. It's years of changes and years of processes being broken down before they can be fixed again. And it seems like Man United are simply trying to skip that process again and starting to reward a manager before he's done something. The problem in the past couple of years has been getting this managerial choice correct, backing the manager at the right time, and then getting rid of the managers at the right time. at the point when INEOS came in at first, they gave Ten Hag a new contract when they should not have done that. Should have sacked him, but they gave him a new contract.
He got sacked by Leverkusen, and now they're still paying his contract, I think.
And you know what's funny about that? It took Leverkusen 2 months to realize what it took Man United 3 years. That's how crazy it is. Like, he was unliked, and they said, yeah, look, this isn't going to work at our club. Man United need to realize, for one, Amorim, I don't think he's a bad manager. I agree that he needs time, but you don't give the manager the new contract at this point. You've just had a transfer window. You've just been kicked out of the cup to Grimsby. You've got a season to look forward where you can actually evaluate his performance a lot more balanced, because he got a preseason and he's had a transfer window and he's got a full year with no European games in between. So he gets a week break. There's no excuses. He's probably going to have least amount of injuries in the Premier League. Like, he has no excuses but to perform. So I feel like this is the conversation should be having at the end of the season. If you're 1 month away from the end of the season and you say, do you know what? We're in the top 7. He's had a good season. Yeah, let's give him a new contract. Let's give him another 2 years to see what he can do. Then it's fine. But to sit here at the 8th of September after just Grimsby knockout was only, 2 weeks ago now? It's not even been 14 days. And they're like, yeah, do you know what? That win against Burnley was good. Yeah, new contract. Like, it's just madness. And to me, it just shows yet again, Man United have moved no further forward under INEOS.
The one thing I would probably, I would say on it is, listen, I think you've spent money, and I think last season with Ten Hag, I think INEOS would even say that was a mistake. The thing is with Amorim now is, don't give him a new contract, but I would say give him the full season. I think it's going to be difficult. You're going to go through bad moments, like the Grimsby one. I think that will stand out. But at the end of the day, like, give him a year, just because United right now is, as you alluded to, Jords, and Terry, you had said it, it's going to take a long, long time to figure out like what actually works. The one thing I would say about Amorim, and I have been a big criticizer of him because I don't feel like he's improved many players in the current squad, but I think he's got rid of a lot of dead wood, which is difficult to do with Man United. And we've seen coming to the end of the transfer window, like players sitting on their contracts and happy to potentially just stay in the reserves, like Sancho, Anthony, Rashford, Garnacho, and he's done well to get them out. And I know they're only on, some of them are on loans, but still, I think that's important. I just don't think giving them a contract now is the right thing to do. I think like you have to say, listen, this is going to be a difficult moment. I want to see what you can do with the players that we've obviously brought in and we've gotten you. I think most Man United fans will say we're still a bit short in terms of certain areas, but I don't think you're going to fix that all in one window. I think that's fair, but just give him the full season. I know like some United fans won't want to hear that, but I think give him the season. Let's see what he can do with the new players that he has. Can he maybe imprint his ideology, which is he hasn't been able to do so far? Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. But then at least you can say, right, we gave it a fair try. But I think it's that thing with impatience around maybe having someone that's not going to work out. That's the issue. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't be giving him a new contract, but I'd give him the season, if that makes sense.
See, I hear what a lot of you are saying. I think the idea of would not move forward under INEOS on the pitch, the results on the pitch, I agree with. You know, we although we were 14th most of last season, we're currently sit 9th. So improvement there. Obviously, I'm being pedantic, but we've done a lot of things off the pitch that are different for us. Now, whenever you give an example, the knee-jerk reaction is to go, but what about this? What about that? What about the other? That's people that don't understand this is going to take years to fix. For instance, I think the removal of Onana and Rasmus are a sign of what Barada spoke about when he came in, that players at top clubs should get 18 months to 2 years to prove they're good enough. If not, they're moved on. So they are two players that came in 2 seasons ago, already gone. The issue is we would love to have done more players that have been here 2 years, 3 years and failed. The issue that we have is there are legacy issues because the previous regime still have Sancho's and Anthony's and the likes that have been here 3, 4, 5 years plus. The Rashford issue that's been dragging on for 2 years after consistent times of him threatening to leave if he didn't get first team football. These are issues that I don't see reoccurring under INEOS like they did under the previous regime running the football club. So there's a lot of legacy issues to fix before you can start focusing on the more immediate issues, as it were. The fact that we got rid of like 9 players this summer I remember doing a stream on the United Stand at the end of last season where I was kind of laughed at for suggesting that 6 or 7 players would go. We've ended up around 9, which is pretty good. So I think there's been some areas that we're focusing on. We've been better in negotiations. We're not great sellers, but we've had the best 2 summers in the history of our football club the last 2 years. This summer shows at like 75 million at the moment, but there's 2 deals that are worth over 70 million combined that will happen next year, if that makes sense. So the deals are in place. So essentially we've sold 140 million pounds worth of players, and to the Liverpools and Chelseas, that's chump change. You guys sell for a lot of money, but we have been averaging around the 30-40 million pound mark a summer for a long time. Why do I think that's important? Because it gives you more money to reinvest. We've also shrunk the wage bill. Man United's wage bill was over 2 on base salary. Forget bonuses and everything else that takes it up 300-400 million like all the other clubs. We were spending 160 million pound a year. Sorry, a liar. 260 million pound a year on salaries when INEOS arrived. That is now down to around 152 million. It will go back up again, but only when the squad is performing, only when players deserve those renewals. And I think for me, that's something that I'm intrigued to look at. Chelsea got a lot of stick a few years ago. You're lowering the wage bill, means you're lowering the standards. They lowered it to clear out a lot of crap that wasn't working, and it's slowly building up again as they become a team that's challenging. So I'm happy with those actions, but we do need to see things work out on the pitch. And there's a super chat here. I don't want to steal the thunder here of JR. This is, we're not giving Amorim a new contract. We are thinking of extending his contract, and I think there is a difference here. So again, I think if we start to see some improvements in the league, I think if we go through the next 4, 5, 6 games and we win quite a few of them, I wouldn't be surprised to see a deal that runs out in just under 2 years extended by a year, which if it goes wrong and you sack him, the compensation levels are a little bit higher, but not massively. I think it would be the end of the season before we looked at a new longer term deal. That all being said, when you're selling certain players, when you're siding with the manager that's saying Rashford ain't right, Garnacho's not right, this guy's not right, goalie's not right. When you're siding with him and you and the board are all in agreement on what the club needs to move forward, there is an element where you feel maybe there is a need to show the squad, listen, we might get bad results, but it's you guys that are going first, not the manager, because we're backing him. That's also the one thing I'd say about that. That's also the opposite to what we've done in the past. Now, some will jump on me and go, no, Terry, we renewed Ollie's contract when we shouldn't have done. There's a difference. I think the team and the club had gone as far as it could with Ollie. We got to an end of sort of 3 years. He'd lost that cup final. What we probably should have done is moved on from that point. This is different. This is at the fledgling stage of a club-size rebuild. There is a train of thought that if you turn around and go, guys, I know some of you might be feeling like Downing tools because you don't want to work the way the manager wants, or you're worried that in 2 years you're going to be moved on anyway within 2 years because you don't really fit how he's going to play. So maybe your thought is we could get him out like previous managers by Downing tools. Maybe if they say there's a new deal and tell the dressing room, even if Amorim does have to be sacked, you're still on the chopping board. Maybe you get more consistency of effort from these players. So there is that train of thought. But I've calmed down after Grimsby. I'm not even backing Amorim. It's not even about that for me. I just want to get behind something that looks and sounds and feels different to what we've done previously. So I love how we've cleared out players. I love the fact we're reducing the wage bill. I love the fact that we've gone for a manager that has a set style of play, who says he ain't changing it, and we're going to implement it. We're going to build a squad that's going to make that work. It's going to take time. As much as I'm angry after some games and I'm annoyed at some moments, and I have my periods where I lose faith because I'm a football fan and I'm a human and I'm fallible in that way, I am happier that we're trying something different rather than repeating the same mistakes of the past. But where I do agree is I wouldn't be giving him a 2 or 3 year new deal at this stage. I think that would be a step too far, in my personal opinion, in relation to this. What do you guys think about the Mainoo situation? Because obviously only 2 weeks ago, he was asking to go out on loan. The club said no. The manager said no. Everybody said absolutely not. We want you here to stay and fight. There was the whiplash, although I did watch the film Whiplash the other night, and I was like, I don't really get the meltdown, really. I want a player to work that hard. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't necessarily think it means Ruben's throwing chairs at people and calling them nasty names. You haven't seen the movie, watch it. It's very good. But what do you make of the Mainoo conversation? Because the club's saying they want him, but he's not able to get into the first team. When he was told to work for a position, the knee-jerk reaction was, give me a loan. What do you guys make of that scenario? I'll go to Jamie first on this.
Yeah, it's difficult because I think most people will agree the quality that Mainoo has and can bring to a team is there. I would, especially against Grimsby, I think like when I see him again, when I seen him obviously get his opportunity and go in and maybe show what he's about, he didn't have the best game. And I think that's something I would be looking at and saying, no, I think there's probably a few reasons as to why that is. He obviously hasn't been playing too much. He was injured a lot of last season, but I think like we've seen glimpses of his quality last year as well. And obviously when he came into the squad, there's a lot about him that you like. I think from United's perspective, they obviously want to keep him, but from his perspective, he's thinking, I need to play. Do you know what I mean? And from what we've seen with Amorim is that he doesn't trust him to maybe play in that double pivot. And he trusts Bruno Fernandes more, who everyone is criticizing, saying that he can't play in that position. So that would be my worry for him. I think it's kind of similar to like Garnacho, Rashford in terms of there's a way that Amorim wants to play and he doesn't fit into that style. And then what naturally happened is that they got shoved out the door. And I think there's other issues with them. But yeah, it's difficult because I think you do want to keep a player that quality, but if it's not going to work in terms of the way the manager wants to have him, and like what you're saying there, Terry, you want to back something and you want to believe in something in the direction that the manager is going. And if he doesn't feel like Mainoo fits into that solution, then maybe the best thing to do is to let him go. But United obviously feel like he does have a lot of quality and he does have a lot of value that he could bring to the team, but he's just not maybe showing it or getting the opportunity. So you're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place, I would say, at the minute with Mainoo.
Yeah, I have to agree there. For me, there's two perspectives in it. I think from Mainoo's perspective, I think he's been very hard done by because I think when you look at the amount of games you guys are going to have available, the minutes that are going to be available for him, especially, I think he, more than anything, I don't think he wanted a loan to sort of platform himself to other clubs. I think he wanted a loan to platform himself for the World Cup. World Cup minutes, World Cup season, as all young players would. They just want to be in the eyes of Thomas Tuchel. Now, with the limited minutes that are going to be available for Manchester United in a position that doesn't really work for him, I don't really think that he wants to be in that scenario and probably is in a comfortable situation. But then again, at the same time, we do have to be honest. He's a player who across the last 2 years, his talent, I mean, his talent's undeniable. You can see that in his technical level and just those little bursts of moments he has in games. But turning that talent into consistent performing is the difference between a lot of players at his level. And to be fair, a lot of academy players and Premier League players, the ones that actually make it into the Premier League. You can look at someone like Elliot Anderson, who's nowhere near as flashy as him, probably isn't as well-rounded as a footballer and what he can supply. But again, at the same time, Elliot Anderson gives you a consistent level of certain things that he's really good at. So when I look at it from that perspective, I'm like, Mainoo, you need to get your head down and work away and get into the team. You are 20 years old, so I don't think as a midfielder at 20 years old, you should be locked into, oh, I'm a 10, I'm an 8, I'm a 6. You should be able to play all the different positions, and wherever the manager needs you, the manager should be able to mold you into the type of player he needs. Now, I do think there's a lot of questions regarding Amorim's actually trust of him and what Amorim has been using him as, because you can't come into a team, start using him as a 10, be like, yeah, do you know what? He's performing in this way. So, and then bring him back into an 8 and be like, oh, no, well, you have to battle with Bruno for this position, because the best bits and his best play under Amorim was when he was playing as that left forward, right forward role. Now, I understand that role has been, you went out there, you recruited for new players in that positions, but ultimately you do need to work with him in his best positions and how you do get the best out of him. So I think there's a fine line between, siding with the manager and siding with Mainoo, and you need to, have balance in between there. But I do think Mainoo's been hard done by here.
I'm sitting so firmly on the fence. It's unbelievable with this one. In many people's eyes.
I understand it.
And what I mean by this is I'm on the club side here. I see it from both perspectives. For me, this ain't about Mainoo versus Amorim. This is about, so I want Amorim to give him ample opportunity. And look, 2 games into the Premier League season that he didn't get a minute. He's been our most used midfielder in the next 2 games. So again, it depends how you want to use and manipulate statistics, But from my perspective, I wasn't happy with him asking for a loan move. My view on it is, nah, bruv, stay and fight. We've had too many players in the last 12 years that as soon as their position in the team is challenged, I'm going to find a new club then. I'm going to find a new club. And I've never been a fan of that. I didn't like it when Rashford did it. I didn't like it when Pogba did it. I didn't like it when Rooney did it. And go right back to Rooney. Right. I mean, this was just at the end of Fergie's time. And I called it out then. I remember that following season. I still had my season ticket. I was in the crowd. I wouldn't cheer for any goals he scored. I went, no, not after he asked to leave again for a second time. I've been kind of consistent with this. I want players to fight for their position in the team. I also see it though when people go, yeah, but the manager just isn't going to give him a chance. And if the manager isn't going to give him a chance, then I think it's ridiculous that we haven't sold him and cashed in on him. If you're backing the manager's style, and you're going to see it through 2 or 3 years and build him a squad, then it's nonsensical to keep Kobbie Mainoo. And then you get I can't believe we're thinking of selling Mainoo before Cass. It isn't about thinking about doing it. It's that Kobbie Mainoo would fetch us money now that you could reinvest, where no one wants to buy Casemiro for 30 or 40 million on the salary that he's on. So it isn't about, like, people, again, they look at this in a really shallow, childish, elementary way. And I think it's a little more complex than people like to kind of, or than people understand it. He needs to deliver, though, when he comes on the pitch. And what I would say about Kobbie, I'm a massive fan. Go back and watch the preview of the Euros final and how excited I was for him. Go back and look at what I said after what he did in the FA Cup final for Man United. Fantastic. But he wasn't great last year. It wasn't as though he was... Bruno Fernandes last season, was when he was playing in the 10 for us. Ahmad last season. Barring his first game for us, Lenny Yoro last season, to name a few players, they were very good in a struggling team. Mainoo wasn't one of those guys. And I think what I don't want to do with Kobbie is what I saw people do with Paul Pogba, what I saw people do with Martial, and it infuriated me. And I won't, and I didn't do it then, and I'm not going to do it now, no matter how much I like a player. Even if the team isn't gelling, and I'll use a few players from your club as an example, didn't matter how shit Tottenham were, Ledley King always looked good. Didn't matter how crap Liverpool were at times, Gerrard always looked a very good player. So United were really bad for periods of the 80s. Brian Robson wasn't. He was always a very good football player. Look how crap West Ham are. But Bowen always looks good, right? So if you really are... So I used to get annoyed when people were like, McTominay's bad because he's a bum. Okay, it's fair. Why was Pogba bad today? System tactics made him bad. No. Football's never worked that way. If you truly are an elite, consistent player, you can shine. You can look. If you put any world-class Premier League football now in the Leyton Orient team, they'd still look like a brilliant football player, even though they're surrounded by less quality. I think players can go up a level when they move into better teams. Elise has done it. I think Eze will do that. I think you'll see Mohamed Kudus is a prime example, gone from West Ham squad to Spurs' squad straight away. You're like, oh, look at him, right? I think that often happens. But I want to see Kobbie Mainoo get his head down. I want to see him work hard. And I thought his cryptic post was all about that at the weekend, which is, okay, I've said some things, the manager said some things, this is where we are. I'm going to get my head down and work hard. And I think if Kobbie gets down, works his fingers to the bone, doesn't moan and bitch, and cuts out anyone in his life who every time he gets a setback, he's like, run away, try something different. That running away element, that's going to haunt you for the rest of your career. I just think you're always going to run away because you're going to build up no resistance to adversity. And do you know what? You need that on a football pitch. The reason why in the last decades, the Liverpools and the Cities have been so brilliant, the reason why Madrid, no matter how bad they are, have got themselves through games in the Champions League to go on and win it, is because there's a resilience. When the going gets tough, they stay and fight. They don't run and look for something new. And that's my issue with that mentality, is I think if there's too much of that in your squad, you can't win enough games, because when the going gets tough, where are you going to run off to? And that would be my message to Kobbie. Talent-wise, fantastic. My message to the manager is give him more game time, give him more opportunity. Essentially, give him the rope. Give him the rope and let's see if he can hook himself something up brilliant, or give him enough rope to metaphorically hang himself. Because if he does get 5, 6, 7 starts on the bounce and he doesn't look very good, no matter how bad Bruno is, he was given opportunity. Donny van der Beek went through this. Everyone's like, oh, got to give him a try. Every chance he got, he was cack. And you got to a point where you're like, even if you despise Bruno, it's not like Van der Beek's coming in looking like prime Paul Scholes and then he's being dropped. You've got to deliver. When you get your chance, you've got to look good. So that's my message. And I hope he gets a new deal as well, by the way. I want him to stay. But I'm not just going to do this player FC thing and I'm going to hate the manager because a player I like isn't getting the opportunities. I think there is a balance to this. So some will say it's sitting on the fence. I think I'm looking at this more from a Man United perspective. I want him to stay. I want him to get a new deal. But I need him to want to break himself to help us win. Because that's what I see the top clubs do, their players do, is they run through brick walls, they run through adversity. They might be you're going to have this at Liverpool in a few weeks, where Ekitike and Isak they're going to both hold bench at times. If their attitude is, I'm going to look for a new club, they're not going to be successful, nor are you. What their attitude will be is, you wait till I get my chance, I'm going to kill it. But your whole dressing room thinks like that. It's why Liverpool are successful in the modern day game. Man United's dressing room is, I'm not getting what I want. Might as well leave then. And I just think that's why I get there's more to it than that, but that's one of the reasons you're winning and challenging and we're not. And I think we need to think more that way, if I'm being honest, as a football club. Viewers, give us your thoughts, give us your opinions in the comment section below. Isn't it funny how World Cup year has become a thing? Are players more motivated to play for their countries and it's not a new thing, that is it?
No,
I think it depends on the country. You get a lot of nations players, and because I think somebody tried to downplay it to, I can't remember what Spurs player, but basically tried to downplay the fact that, Kudus, they asked Kudus, is the international break too soon after playing 3 games, sort of suggesting that the Premier League's more important. And no, he quite clearly clarified that it's such an honor to play for their country. They want to. And they take this opportunity and they relish it. So I don't know what this guy's on about. I think a lot of players are more motivated to play for their countries and clubs. It's only fans that feel otherwise.
Yeah, I think because what we do is, as fans, we just think about the energy or the emotions that maybe go into club football when you're watching every week, and maybe don't get that from, say, the international break that's on now. Some people might not get it. When I was watching Ireland today, I was getting excited because we were playing well. And I think from my perspective, and even from a player's perspective, you think about actually going to a World Cup. It's something that only ever happens every 4 years. And a player that's playing well now might not get that opportunity in 4 years. Different things can happen over the course of someone's career, you know what I mean, where they get that opportunity. So, yeah, I think when a World Cup year comes up, I think every player will say that it would be something that they want to be playing consistently, and have the opportunity to go and play for their country.
Forget that the World Cup is the pinnacle of football. As much as we rate the Champions League, the World Cup is far bigger than the Champions League. So being able to play in that is huge. It's literally massive. If you
were to ask most players, would they rather win a Champions League or a World Cup? I think 99% of them would say they'd rather win a World Cup.
There's 2 things to this. One, rightly or wrongly, and I don't want to get into the politics of it, a lot of English people don't feel very patriotic in 2025.
Yeah,
so I think there's an element that takes something away. Where I watch the Welsh, I watch the Irish, I watch the Scottish, and it's just everything to them. I watch most players from African nations feel that way, European nations. England, it's almost like, it's weird, right? Because I know that we've got a bad history with what this country's done historically, but I'll watch English people watch France and be like, that's a nation, or Spain, that's a nation. Or Belgium, yeah, go on, look at the patriotism. But yet, the same reasons they hate their own country, they ignore about those individual countries that did similar things. I always find it an interesting view. I think we're quite a self-deprecating country, and that's part of it. I think the other part is that we've allowed the tribalism and the love we have for our clubs to get in the way of our nation, and I've never really been that way. I'm someone that, I did this thing years back with my mates. We did this thing because we used to go into the pubs and watch the games, and we all got England shirts for, I think it was the World Cup in 2010. And our little thing was, we all got names on the back of players that played for our biggest rival. So I had like an England shirt with Gerrard on the back, as an example. I think Phil, who's an Arsenal fan, I swear he got Ledley King. I don't think Ledley King even went. He might have gone in 2010, but he got Ledley King on the back. My brother who is a Liverpool fan, got Rooney on the back. And we sort of did it as like we've got to try and, I think it would help the country if you're a Liverpool fan that doesn't support England for political reasons, that's fair. But if you are an Arsenal fan who watches England, you shouldn't want a Spurs player in the England team to do badly if you truly are supporting England. If you're an Arsenal fan that doesn't want England to win because there's Spurs players in it, I almost feel like well, don't call yourself a supporter. It doesn't make. I don't think a supporter can ever want their team to lose or its own players to do badly. I think that at club level now, by the way, there are fans. We've all got fans of our clubs that maybe Liverpool are in a good space right now. But if there's a player that's doing badly or a player that the fan base don't like, there's almost this celebration when they do bad so they can say, see, I told you. I find that warped. I find that a warped way of looking at the game. I think the other element is, I think that the European qualification element of the game has become so... Look how bad England have played, but look how easy it is for us to qualify. That doesn't help. I grew up in an era where you'd have the likes of Italy and Spain and Germany in your group. So there was multiple games that meant something. You might not go to the World Cup. Now, it's so easy to get there. I think you factor those three things in, and it makes people less excited about the international break. He's like, we're playing Andorra and San Marino.
I think though they've obviously like made it bigger. So like when they actually goes to like say the World Cup, it's 32 now. No, it used to be something smaller. I can't remember. But I think because it was better for like the bigger teams where they maybe have a bit more competition, but it was a lot harder for the smaller teams to go through. So you have like nations, because the thing is like with nations is like it's not like club football where like you can bring players in, you can improve your squad. It's just based on what you currently have. So if you're a smaller nation, you're trying to like obviously improve. It's very difficult to compete with like the bigger nations. So it does make sense in terms of like, say with us, like we have Hungary in our group and we could potentially go through against that. But if it was like, say, Spain and Portugal, like we'd have a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like they've oversaturated the international game to the point that every international break, a lot of the time, just feels like friendlies. Like as much as these are World Cup qualifiers, I don't watch much of them. But when I do, it feels like a friendly. You feel like you're watching a friendly. There's not intensity in the games, and that's no fault of the players, isn't it? I think that's just a fault of the way that it's set up. But it's been like this for a while. So every time an international break comes around, unless there's like a big game on, like you say, and usually which is a friendly or a big qualifier, half of the time it's just like these are pointless games. Like you said,
I think what they should do personally is it would make the Nations League more popular. And by the way, it's already popular on the continent. It's just English people that don't like it.
Yeah, I like the Nations League.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I quite like it, and you can tell when teams have won it. Look how that's they celebrate. But equally we do that with the European trophies at club level. English fans are the only nation in the world that laugh at Europa Leagues and Conference Leagues. Every other nation takes them seriously. So maybe we're the problem here. We're the odd ones out. But maybe get rid of Euro qualifiers. Maybe get rid of World Cup qualifiers and make it so and you've got to work out how you do this, like fine tune it. But maybe if you're in the Group A's and the Group B's, and maybe if you come in the top two in the Group C's, that's who qualifies for the World Cup from Europe. That's who UEFA sends to the World Cup. But equally, you're competing against each other to stay in those leagues and to win a trophy. That way, every game is competitive. You're fighting to win the Nations League, which wins you a trophy. But if you're in the top two segments, you're guaranteed to go to the World Cup. You're guaranteed to go to the Euros. That way, you're always playing teams that are... You will find there'll be a point, because Scotland had a good run recently. There's been times where Ireland have had good periods. You might go, I'm in Group D, we've got to get up into at least the top part of Group C or Group B to go to the World Cup. But all of the smaller nations have had periods where they've had good teams, and they get to that stage. You might even find, Ireland might be like in Group C, and oh wow, we've done it. We've beaten teams all of our level. We've gone into Group B, but you've gone into Group B in the year where no matter what, you're going to go to the World Cup now. But now you can test yourself against a group that's got Croatia, England, Italy, and Spain in it as an example. If you're in the top group, you're guaranteed to be at the World Cup, but you're also fighting to win the Nations League. I think they could just get rid of it always being, sometimes you've got like qualifiers going on and the Nations League at the same time. And it's a big mess where if you did it that way and created like a European league that consistently runs over a 2-year period, that sorts out the qualifications for the Euros and the World Cup, but it's for a trophy, I think you could get more people interested. Because what would happen, like England had a bad time and got relegated, that would make us have to really work hard. Every game would matter now in the Nations League, because if we don't finish and get back into Pot B, we ain't going to the World Cup. So suddenly England fans would care. Well, when we got knocked out of Group B, it was we're shit, but all right, don't matter, does it? We're going to the World Cup anyway. I think they could do that, and I think it would get people more involved, and it would mean winning the Nations League would maybe be a little bit more fun as well. But yeah, I don't know. It's just at the moment with the way it's set up, no disrespect to Andorra, San Marino, all these nations, it's like these teams, even when we're bad, we beat them. How is that meant to motivate fans to go to these games and enjoy it? It's a little, the game at Saturday, honestly, it sounded like Soccer Aid. Almost sounded like Soccer Aid in the ground. And it's not good for the game, man. It's not good for the game at all for me. But to viewers, give us your thoughts and opinions on that. I want to thank Taj, by the way, who gifted out 10 memberships to our viewers this morning. Thank you very much indeed. Hello, gentlemen. I wish you are all having a nice day. Just joined. Did you discuss the new contract for Amorim yet? Amorim in. We did, Abel. We did. We spoke about it in the sense of probably not right to extend that contract now. But there is some mileage in maybe extending it. There's already a trigger to extend it by a year. The same with Kobbie. People are saying 2 years left on his deal. We can extend it to 2028 on our own means. So a lot of people are panicking about Mainoo's new deal. We've got 3 years that we can extend it to. So we're not going to suddenly start losing value, but probably need to get those things sorted sooner rather than later. I want to speak about the return of the Prem, boys, and transfer windows done. We know what everyone's got in their excuse the pun, in their arsenal. And this triggered Z in the group chat earlier. He said, how can you say that Arsenal are better than Liverpool? Well, one, there's a question mark on it, first and foremost. That's there. Look at it. Secondly, this is based off what Anton, one of the Arsenal fans who comes on our show, said, that Arsenal now have the most balanced squad in the Premier League. So that is a little bit of a talking point in this part. But Jords, who do you think does have the best squad in the league? And where's your head at with who is winning the Premier League this season?
So I feel like best squad and balanced squad are two different things, because I would agree in the sense that Arsenal have the most balance in their squad with regards to profiles, players, options, depth, because they have depth in midfield. Well, the midfield, no, they do. They have depth in midfield. They have depth in defense. They have depth up front. They're probably the most balanced, but the best quality squad. Do you know what? Even then, this is tough, because I look at Liverpool and say they've got the best team, but I look at that squad, and every time I see them play and I look at the bench, I'm not worried for them, but there is a lot of questions because their bench isn't that strong. I never think their bench is that strong. Now, with the addition of Isaac, that might change my opinion, because now you've got an Isaac on the bench or an Ekatike on the bench. But squad-wise, I'd still go... Do you know what? Nah, I'd have to go Liverpool. I was going to go Man City, but
we got there.
I don't know. No, do you know what? I was going to go City, but then I looked at their defense, and City's defense is dreadful.
No way they'll be near it.
Yeah, so they've definitely not got the best squad. I've got Liverpool. I had City winning the league a few weeks ago, just before the end of the transfer window, thinking that they'd make a move at the end of the transfer window, with the only move to be Donnarumma. I just can't see them doing it. See the way that they've started the season. Now, I don't think they're going to have a poor season like many people think. I think Pep will figure things out very quickly. But at the same time, I don't know if they're going to be able to compete with Liverpool's just consistency on how... I don't think Liverpool are going to lose many games, maybe 2 or 3 across the season in the Premier League. I think Man City have already lost 2 games. I think Man City are going to lose a heck of a lot more games, and they're going to concede a lot of goals. So I can just see Liverpool stretching that gap. Arsenal second again, ole. But Arsenal definitely have a very good squad, and I don't think anyone can take anything away from them. I think when you look at the depth for when they do get an injury, like they've had Saliba injured, they've got that Mascara coming straight in, they've got Hincapie as an option, they've got Calafiori as an option, they've got Ben White as an option. They've got so many other players that are versatile to play right back, centre back, and I don't think they're ever going to have a problem when injuries do go down. Now they've got those options as the backup. So look, I think Arsenal have a balanced squad, but Liverpool's quality is just too good. And in front of goal, they're just going to outscore every team.
What's the key? Go on, Joe. You go first, and I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
More questions. Go on. Sorry.
Oh no, I suppose the question is like, what is balance? Because if you were to say Arsenal have a really good defense, really good midfield, but I don't think like that is true. But I don't think they have the same output in attacking, like say with scoring goals and being creative and stuff as Liverpool would do. And I don't think that is a balanced team in terms of how good they are defensively to how good they are attacking wise. I think the thing is with Liverpool, and we talked about it last week as well, Liverpool are just going to score so many goals. And if you're playing against Liverpool, you're going to need to score at least probably 2 goals to beat them, 3 goals to beat them, because they are going to score. With Slot, they've scored in all but 1 game. I said that last week. So the thing is that's the options that they have. And now they've literally just bought the best striker, or one of the best strikers in world football, to add to that. So the thing is with Liverpool as well, they haven't even got going yet, and they've beaten Arsenal at home. They've just went to Newcastle in one of the toughest grounds and one of the most ferocious atmospheres they'll probably face all season and beat them. And if they can figure out defensively, I think there's still probably some issues in terms of like midfield balance, if you want to talk about it that way, that they still have to figure it out. But they haven't got going. They literally haven't got going yet. And they have just added the best forward in, like one of the best forwards in the league to their team. So that's when I think about when you talk about like who is probably most likely to win and who has maybe the most balance. I still think Liverpool, and on top of all that, they have the experience of winning it last year. Do you know what I mean? They have a manager that knows how to get it over the line. And I just think that's the one thing I would say about Liverpool in comparison to Arsenal.
Well, that was one of my questions. Do you think this season will be, and I want the viewers to understand where I'm coming from with this, will it be consistency of firepower that decides the race? And when I say consistency, I'm talking about the consistency of performances, or will it just be the team that's able to fire its way through some of these games that wins it?
The team
I think, yeah, like at the end of the day, like I think Arsenal, and this is the thing, like when it came to the Liverpool game, Arsenal were able to nullify Liverpool going forward. That's how good they are defensively, because Liverpool, they're very hard to stop when it comes to actually creating chances and scoring goals. But in the end, that is only going to get you so far. You know what I mean? And I think that's what we've seen at Arsenal, where I think probably 2 years ago was probably Arsenal's best kind of free-flowing football. And now they've kind of come to a stage where they haven't actually been able to improve on that. Now, obviously, they bring in Gyökeres, Eze, and Madueke and stuff, and if they can keep Saka fit, then they might be able to. But I think defensively, they're going to nullify so many teams. And at the end, it's going to be the team that scores the most goals. Liverpool scored 17 more goals than Arsenal last year. And that was, in terms of them being better, was one of the reasons that they won. Arsenal had a better defense. Do you know what I mean? So the goals won Liverpool the league, not being better defensively than Arsenal.
Yeah, I have to agree very strongly there. I just think that the way the league's gone, it is leaning towards more of an attacking game. Like especially when you look at some of the defenses available, and I look at the attacks, you can just see that there's very strong attacks in the league this season. A lot of the top teams have their defense in Arsenal and Liverpool, but away from Arsenal and Liverpool, the drop off defensively, the next best defense is like Everton or someone. Like, we have to be honest, the drop off is massive. So I just look at it and I go, Liverpool, it's going to lean more on the side that can have the more firepower. And I think Liverpool are just going to blast their way through. Majority of the teams in the league manage to score 2 or 3 goals. And the biggest thing with Liverpool is those 2 or 3 goals are right around the corner. Even when there's 10 minutes left of the game, I feel like there's always that feeling, like there was in that Bournemouth game, like there was in the Newcastle game. There's always that feeling that Liverpool are going to get a goal. Whenever they attack, they've got that quality that they can just score on that attack, and there's always that fear. So I just look at it and I go, Liverpool are going to have too much. And across the season, in a lot of these games where Arsenal, lack that risk averse, like Arteta doesn't want to make the attacking change. He'll make the defensive change to see out the draw. Liverpool are going to make that attacking change, bring on Rio, bring on Gakpo, whoever it is, and try and get that goal. And they'll secure games like that. And ultimately, there's a big difference between 1 point and 3.
Yeah, it's an interesting question that you raised, Jamie. What is balance? I think there's an element now when it comes to content creation where people will say the word balance more than they'll say better, because then they can say, I didn't say the word better though, did I? Don, big up Don, love you. CFC Don is the master at saying, and I'll give you an example. He will say, Mahalo Mudryk. I'm making up these examples to prove a point. He'll say, Mahalo Mudryk, better touch, better dribbling, more direct. I prefer how he does X, Y, and Z. Better haircut, better this. This is better. Prefer this. He's got this to his game, that to his game. He's more advanced in these areas. He's more superior at this, that, and the other than Martinelli. Oh, so you think he's better than Martinelli?
He did actually say those things. You don't have to paraphrase. I'm pretty sure he said all of those.
But he'll say things to that effect, and then you go, oh, so you think Mudryk's better than Martinelli? I didn't say better. So it's this thing of, like, I think sometimes people do that now where they think, no, I just said more of a balanced squad. I think if you've got a more balanced squad, it's not more balanced if Wolverhampton Wanderers have a player, 2 players, 3 players for every position. Yes, it might be more balanced than Liverpool's, but it's nowhere near the quality, so it almost becomes an irrelevant point. It is a little bit closer when it comes to, I think the only element where that comes into play is this. Arsenal can now probably cope with injuries to every position on the pitch, and you won't see that much of a difference. I actually think with Saliba being out, I think Mosquera is going to step in, and you're not going to see too big a difference. I feel like I think they've got Ben White out at the moment, and they have Saliba out at the moment, and somebody else in defence. I think they've got 3 defenders out that play centrally. If Liverpool have 3 central defenders out, I think they could be in a little bit of trouble. So that's where I look at this. But I also think the firepower argument is massive. I don't think we're going to see a massively consistent team in terms of wins this year. I don't think teams are going to be winning 7, 8, 9, 10 games on the bounce, because I think we've moved back into an era where there's multiple very good teams. And I know that sort of fans of Jurgen Klopp and City fans, they won't like hearing this, but both those teams have been fantastic, world-class teams. Both of those teams would have competed with the sides in any era of the Premier League, in any era of English football, in any era of European football. They are at that level. So I'm taking nothing away from them individually, but I don't think they were competing against the level of quality in Europe as we've seen in eras gone by. And we know that is true, because just think of the last 10 years. Most seasons, last 5 years, beginning of most seasons, how many teams can you actually say, I think they'll win the Champions League without people laughing at you? You could name Liverpool and City, Real Madrid,
PSG, Bayern. Literally.
Even PSG were laughed at until last year. Bayern were a name that would come up. Barcelona in the last 5 years, maybe not, but in the last decade, most certainly. Never, if you mention any of the Italian teams, Inter got a little bit of support last year. They won't now after the way they got beat in the final. Where if you go back 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you had Portuguese teams, you had German teams, you had English teams, you had 4 English teams every year. And even yourself will admit, Jords, between sort of 03 and 2013, for the majority of that time, if you said Arsenal could win the Champions League, no one laughed at you and said, no chance, no heritage, because they were there or thereabouts. And I think that what we're going to see this season, the reason I bring this all up is I think this season, you're in. Someone says Chelsea. No, in the last 5 years, if you mentioned Chelsea winning the Champions League, you got laughed at. Maybe not this year because we've seen them grow. But I think what you'll see this year is teams like Liverpool will win 3 good games on the bounce, and then they might draw a match or lose a game. But then they'll win another 3 or 4 on the bounce. I don't think anyone's going to do sort of 8, 9, 10 wins, as we saw all those City and Liverpool teams do in their title-winning seasons in years gone by. That isn't because they're not as good. I think the chasing pack are better. I think the chasing pack to that team that wins the league is better. And we also have a very strong group that are fighting for European positions as well, that are also capable. You've seen Palace, sort of the way Palace are as a club, as an example. So that's why I think firepower is going to come into this in terms of deciding the league. Yes, consistency is key, but Liverpool have got 9 points from 9 with no consistency in their performance because they've just been able to score goals. And I think that's what's going to separate the teams that win the title. There'll be a consistency compared to the teams not challenging for the title. But amongst themselves, you may be the better performer, better underlying. This is where the stats only take you so far. Better underlying numbers, more XG, more entries into the box, more clean sheets. But you're going, hang on a minute, how are we 5 points behind? Do you know why? Because there's been 3 occasions where Isak's controlled the ball, turned, and buried it into the top corner from 25 yards and won them 9 points by scoring that way. And you didn't do that. And you're going to be separated by that, where we've gone through some years where the teams with the best underlying metrics have also been the teams winning the league. And that isn't because they weren't bad teams. It's because there was no one else with the ability to really stop them. When the Centurions happened, 20-point gap. Liverpool the next year then pushed them. And the year after that, even closer. And it was like, wow, look how well they're doing. But look at everybody else at that point. No one else was near them, both domestically. So look, I'm so excited about this title race. Few comments here though, gents. And it was one of our points we were going to speak about as well. But there's quite a few people saying, are we writing Chelsea off? Could Chelsea be dark horses in this title race? Or are they too far off?
No, I think they needed a keeper. I think that's something that we talked about. Hato has come in, but he got an injury, didn't he? Like straight away. Did he get an injury? And sorry, that was Caldwell. Caldwell did his ACL. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, I think I think Chelsea have a lot of quality in their team. Like if we actually went through like player by player, you could say like they definitely have a bit about them. But I just think Arsenal and Liverpool are just like one step ahead. But I think they're moving in the right direction. I did say that they should be challenging. I just don't think they'll get it over the line, if that makes sense.
I think it'll be very similar to last year. We remember up until December they looked really good, and then later on in the season they started to fall out. I think once they start to balance all the competitions and they start to get into the flow of playing these games, considering they have one of the harder Champions League runs as well, I think it's going to get difficult for them, and their squad might just break down in the sense that they're just not used to competing at that level. I don't think they have a lot of players that are prepared to play at the Champions League level. Now, in the actual league, I think they'll be better than everybody outside the top four, and I think they'll be better than my team because I just think they'll have more consistency across the season. But at the same time, when you look at their actual peak performance, I don't think their peak performance is going to keep them through for a long period, and I don't think they're going to be able to maintain consistency, even just like you guys do, Jamie. Like you guys have a minimum of a performance, and your minimum is always going to get you a few goals. It's always it's always still going to be able to compete against the decent teams in the league. I think Chelsea, when their performance levels drop, I don't know if you see the game against Palace, you even see the game. What was the other games?
They weren't particularly good against Fulham either.
That's it, the Fulham game. So you look at the Palace game, you look at the Fulham game, their minimum performance levels isn't that good. And I'm not being funny, it was a corner and a penalty. And, Don, the man himself always gets onto Arsenal and other teams for set pieces. They've got themselves out of a lot of games through set pieces this season. I think they scored 3 set pieces in the other game, which they won 4 or 5-0. So they have options. They're creating other solutions to potential creative issues. But at the same time, I just don't think they're going to, like Terry said, they're going to win a game or two, but I think they're going to drop points and then win a game or two and then drop points. I think the consistency won't be there.
Yeah, I think to be fair to them as well, it's like what I said about Liverpool. It's about getting the job done, and that's what they've been able to do so far. And it's to the start of the season, because I think with Chelsea it's just like they're progressing in the right way. I do agree with you, Jords, in that maybe like this season they're obviously going to be playing Champions League as well, and the fact last season they were playing Europa League, they're able to maybe rotate players a little bit more. Like the fringe players are able to come in, and the squad players are able to get a rest. Don't think they'll be able to do that this year.
They literally didn't include Cole Palmer in their Conference League squad. Like he didn't have to play 2 games a week for 6 or 7 months.
So it'll be interesting to see how they cope with that. And I think I'd probably say they're probably in a better position to finish third than Man City. All things considered, I think they have a little bit more about them.
I have them above City. I haven't done my final predictions yet. That's coming out later this week, but I do have Chelsea above City now. I think City have looked weak. But for Chelsea, the next 3 games are not make or break, because I think that would be an hyperbole. I think that'd be a massive exaggeration. But the next 3 games for Chelsea are very interesting. So on Saturday, they play 8 p.m. away at Brentford. Now, Brentford are looked at as a team that are probably going to get relegated this year, but it's their first game at home against a big team. And they've always been a side that have given big teams a run for their money. But it's a tough one for Chelsea just after the international break. Then Wednesday, they're away against Bayern Munich. And then on the Saturday, 5:30, they're away against Manchester United. Now, Man United, again, we're not title contenders. We're not what we were.
That's easy 3 points.
But but our record against big teams actually is
you do better. Yeah, you do better against big teams.
So I think this is one of those moments where I think, I'm not saying make or break, because I think that's an exaggeration, but what I do think is there is this element of, you go away to Brentford and win, you go and get a good result and performance against Bayern, you go to Old Trafford and win. I think people will start to look at Chelsea with very, very different light, including other teams in the Premier League of, this is Chelsea getting back to their absolute best. Where if they go to Brentford and draw, they go and get beat by Bayern Munich. If they go to Old Trafford and lose, people will say, they can't cope with 2 games a week. They're not ready yet. They didn't buy enough. And I always think when you're looked at as a little bit vulnerable, or you can be got at, teams approach you differently. There's a reason why in the opening 20 minutes of nearly every game at Old Trafford, every team, no matter how big or small, or away really, because Grimsby did it, let's go at United because they wobble, because we've got a vulnerability there, and teams pull on it, if that makes sense. And I'm very intrigued to see Chelsea's next 3 games. I think they're an excellent team. I think they'll be not far off the top for the majority of the season. I think they're excellent. Do I think they've got enough to finish ahead of Arsenal and Liverpool? No, for the reasons that we've just mentioned. I just think, look, João Pedro has actually started really, really well, goal-wise, as an example. But I still think he's done excellent, and a lot of people doubted him. A lot of people said that he wouldn't do it, and I'm so glad I got away from that camp, and I listened to other people and said, okay, I'm going to just at least be objective. And I watched 2 games without having kind of any bias, and I was like, I actually see what you guys are saying now, because I was open-minded to it. But I think they'll come third in the league. But again, dark horses, what does that mean? I suppose that means they are dark horses. They're not going to finish 20 points off the top. They'll be there or there. I think Chelsea are the kind of team that could win it if Arsenal and Liverpool aren't as good as we think they are. Does that make sense? And that isn't taking anything away from Chelsea, because it still means you're the best team in the league this year. But I think that if, say Liverpool performances don't get better and they start actually dropping points in games, and if Arsenal have a season like last year, I think someone like Chelsea could slip in and go, well, we'll take this one ahead of time. And that's happened before in the Premier League, where teams have, because when Arsenal, they didn't win it, Arsenal, but when Arsenal had that first title race 3 seasons ago, that kind of came out the blue. And I think Chelsea could be a team that capitalize. I think what I would say about Chelsea is, I think if they're in that position that Arsenal were, 8 points clear with 5, 6, 7 games to go, I think a team like Chelsea would see it through. Just something about their fans, their club, their ability to kind of win in those environments works for them. But the next 3 games for Chelsea are massive. But my other question was, in the title race, are you two completely writing off City, or largely writing them off? Do you think they've got the ability to actually win it this year?
No, I've been writing them off since the start of the season, because I think Donnarumma will come in. He'll definitely help with this situation. I think like Trafford has just been brought in, just like, nah, you're not good enough. See you later. But I just think, I look at them, City, in terms of how they play, and from like, say, seasons gone by, they've done well because they've had like a back 4 that have been relatively physical and competitive. And I just don't think they are that anymore. I think Stones, Diaz, like even Nate Nuri's come in, he'll do okay, but he doesn't bring that physicality that they need. Like, and then you look at like the right back situation with Mateus Nunes and Rico Lewis. I think like they're okay, but they're not going to be good enough for where they need to be, because Man City, with how they play, they'll get caught out a lot of the time in transition, and they don't have the players to be able to cover that. Like when they were really successful, they had like Ruben Diaz was probably at his best. Kyle Walker was on the right hand side. Guardiola was really good as a left back, and I just don't think they've figured out those issues that they should have solved in the summer. They haven't. Like, they've spent probably similar enough to Arsenal and Liverpool in the last like year, and they just haven't been able to figure out those issues. So yeah, I think going forward as well, they don't look like what we've seen. Do you know what I mean? They don't look like they've figured out in terms of like the football that they have been able to play of previous years. I just think, even if you look at like Marmoush, who had a good last season, has been a bit in and out of the team. Like Oscar Bob was playing on the right hand side. Dogu is kind of in and out of the team, and they just, I don't know. I feel like Guardiola is trying to figure out like what actually works right now, and he's just like kind of caught in between everything, because nobody is good enough for what he actually needs. So I've written them off since the start of the season, because I don't think they figured out the issues that they should have. And I'm still consistently going with that.
Yeah, so I actually had them winning the league, like I said at the start of the season. I thought they'd win the league. I thought they'd come back. I thought Pep would. I was also contingent on them making another, because I felt like they'd done a lot of business early in the window that we was just expecting something more, whether it's a Rodrigo, just some more firepower. Because as much as they have quality, I do feel like they're missing a lot of experience in that team. I'm not writing them off though. I'm still not writing them off. I feel like from what we've seen so far, bad start, but they've had bad starts in numerous of years. It's not nothing new or not anything that's strange to us. I think Pep figures it out, and they could still be the closest runners to the Premier League. At this moment, like Jamie said, I have a lot of questions regarding like their tactical setup, how they're playing, whether they're actually going to make it work with the players that they've got. Because, you know, that as much as they can get the best out of Haaland, he's always going to score goals. I do feel like they've got to find a way to work some of these other attacking players into their team, like away from Marmoush. Like, let's get Foden back to his goal scoring form, and same thing.
Yeah, Foden.
like where Foden's fell off a cliff. Pep needs to find a way to get that same tune out of these players he had 2 seasons ago, and then obviously these newer players to fit in the same way. So I still think they could be very good, and they're the only team in the league I think can pick up a 10 or 15 game winning streak still.
I suppose it all depends on your interpretation of writing someone off. They're not my favourites to win the league, so therefore some would go, you're writing them off. Can they win it? Potentially. Do I think they will win it? No. So I mentioned Chelsea's next 3 games. We can't ignore City's. They play Man United at home. It was LB that told us last week in their last 21 games against the traditional Big Six, they have won 5 of them. So they don't have a great win record in those games. Then they play Napoli at home. It is at home in the Champions League, but Napoli are just a brilliant team at the minute that feel like City's kryptonite. Hard to break down, will get you on the counter.
Yeah.
And then they go away to Arsenal. But then they play Huddersfield in the League Cup. Then they play Burnley. So you look at those games as winnable irrespective. But you look at the next 3 games, and the reason why the Champions League is important is because you play a strong team. It's not like they've got the League Cup in between them. Lose to Man United or drop points to Man United, that's 3 games without a win. Then they're going away to Arsenal. I'll be honest with you, I can't see them winning that game now, let alone if they don't beat Man United. That could be 4 games without victory. So they might pick up 2 points. They might pick up 1 point. They might pick up no points in those games. They're going to suddenly be anywhere between 9 to 12 points off the top this early in the season.
Gone. No way.
It's gone not just because it's going to be Liverpool ahead of them. Arsenal will probably be at that point 9+ points ahead of them. Chelsea will probably be 7 to 10 points ahead of them. Man United theoretically could end up being 4 or 5 points ahead of them. And it's what that does psychologically to a team. It's, again, if Liverpool are the only team capable of winning the league, it's okay, we can catch them. But it's when you think Arsenal are good, Chelsea are good, Newcastle might have won 2 or 3 games by then. How are we going to overtake all of these teams to get back on top? And I think psychologically for the title race, by the middle to end of September, City could already be out of it. I think they could already be gone. And I then wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it'll be as bad as 1 win in 13, but I wouldn't be surprised to see another similar run along those lines. And that will open up a really interesting debate. City, since their bad run of form last season, have spent more money than Liverpool, than Arsenal, than Chelsea, who are all being pushed to they must. Yes, City have been very successful in recent years, but it's still got to be looked at. You've still got to look at this and go, well, why is he not getting a tune out of these individuals? You know, and we're not even putting inflation on what he's spent, like their fans like to do with Sir Alex Ferguson, who, by the way, on average, including their inflation, on average, just spent 100. If you put Fergie's money to today's money, he's still spending on average 110 million pound more a season than Fergie did. Yeah, so I didn't bring up money, by the way. The City fans always seem to bring up Fergie's money.
I see your Twitter post.
I was listening to it because I saw Danny Murphy talk about it, and I saw young Luke, who's obviously, I know people that know Luke, and they say he's a really nice lad, and I've got no personal issue with him. It isn't a beef, but I'm listening to it, and I'm like, okay. So you just turn Fergie's 700 million spent into 3 billion. That's fine. But you can't not add inflation to everybody else's. We're still leaves him 4th highest spender in Premier League history. And then he did this thing about looks at the first 9 years of Pep, and the records are amazing. The 4-peats, trebles, domestic trebles, amazing. I'm someone though that when it comes to records, just because Usain Bolt's the fastest runner ever, I'm not going to disrespect Jesse Owens, because I always feel in any sport, the next generation are always standing upon the shoulders of giants. The sports science, the diet innovations, the cutting out of alcohol, all these things. Pep himself speaks about the fact that his style of football wouldn't have existed without Johan Cruyff, right? So I find it hard to go, even if there's better achievements, it doesn't always mean it's better than what came before it, because you're adding on to something, as opposed to, just because your aeroplane is faster and better than the Wright brothers invented flight. They made it work. Without them, there may be no aeroplanes, right? So there's that element too. But then I looked at Fergie's first 9 years in the Prem, and it's like, yeah, the man won 7 of the 9 Premier League titles, did a 3-peat, did a treble, and did the double-double. And this was the maddest bit for me. I was being told the double-double is not a thing. And I was like, no, it really was. You just weren't alive. Spurs were the first team in football history to do the double. Liverpool then did it in the 70s. Man United then did our first ever one in the 90s. And then we did it twice in 2 years. And it was called the double-double. No one had done two. But then I looked at something very interesting. I looked at the spending in that first 9 years of the Premier League. Pep in his first 9 years is the second highest spender. Chelsea have overtaken him in the last couple of years. In fact, when you look at all of City's major trophies and all their records, they're actually number one in that time. Chelsea have just knocked them down in the last 2 years. Fergie was only the 10th highest spender in the Premier League in those first 9 years. 9 other clubs spent more money than him in that period. And by the way, I wouldn't have even brought Fergie's money into it if they hadn't. But I am looking at Pep through that lens now for a little bit of fun. I'm like, okay, guys, he dropped another 450 million. There has to be an expectation on him. He can't not be in the title race after 5 games. That's horrendous for the greatest manager of a generation, surely. Like, we have to have that conversation. He can't just get a pass because of who he is. No other great manager's got that. You can go look what people were saying about Cloughy at the end of his time at Nottingham Forest, if that makes sense. Pep just can't be let off because he's a brilliant manager. You can't drop 450 million over 2 windows and be out of a title race in 5 games. You can't, man. Come on.
I think as well, I've seen Lime commented there about the recruitment. Like, we actually go through the recruitment, and I think Pep is obviously an unbelievable manager, and he's shown that consistently. But I think City's recruitment has been really poor for like the last 2 or 3 years, and it's kind of got them into this situation where the players they have right now to play Pep style, the quality of those players is not good enough. And I think that's where he's coming into issues, because when you actually go back and you look at Pep's greatest achievements, he's always done that by having like almost like a world-class player in every single position. Like, you go through like the Centurions, the treble winners, like those players were unbelievable. And I just don't think he has that with these players. And I think that's why you see a lot of rotation with like the players coming in and out of the team. And like, even like bringing Gundogan back last season, then he's gone now to Turkey. Like Bernardo Silva, he doesn't have the legs. Like, definitely a really good player, but he doesn't have the legs to play in a team like the way City are in terms of when they get caught in transition. You just can't cover the ground. Do you know what I mean? And I do think if you look through, you can start to punch a lot of holes in their team if you actually went through like position by position. And I think that's why Pep right now is he's just struggling to understand like what he can do to fix it. Even the high line situation, they don't have the players to play a high line. Do you know what I mean? They don't have the players to be able to get back and get back into position in the same way that maybe they could have done 2 or 3 years ago. So yeah, I think Chelsea are in a better position to finish third. And I think Pep is just going to struggle this season, and I think it'll probably be his last at Man City.
Do you know what it is for me? Yeah, this comment's perfect. I feel like they've gone from signing the best in class in each position. They used to go around and be like, oh, who's the best right back? Let's go get him. Who's the best number 10 available? Let's go get him. They used to sign all the best in class in their positions to now sort of trying to mix in and be like the other clubs and getting some of these project players, getting some of these players whilst they're younger. Because ultimately, the club can't just keep spending massive amounts every year and, you know, not win and so on. So what they're trying to do is be a bit more sustainable, invest in some of these players early, but I think they're struggling they've made some of the wrong investments, and also some of the players they've got, they haven't matched them up with the same quality. Like, you brought in Doku, you brought in Savinho, but you didn't bring in a top-class winger or someone that was a bit older at that time. So now you've got 2 young players that are trying to figure it out, as opposed to 5 years ago when you had Sane and you had Sterling. You had one of the best left wingers available right now in Sterling and how he's performing, and one of the best right wingers in Sane. So I feel like they've just missed that quality aspect, and some of their signings have just not been that good. They've not performed. So it's a combination of things.
It's really interesting. This comment here says Fergie was in a time where you could just get a player at any time of the season, different playing field. Yeah, there was no transfer window in the early, not the whole of that first 9 years in the Prem. That's not true. But so could any other team buy a player at any time. So it's that equally, we do this thing when we find something that was a benefit to Fergie compared to Pep, we'll go different time. But yet, are we not going to factor in? This ain't even a Fergie thing. This is a Paisley thing, a Shankly thing, a Busby thing, a Wenger thing. These guys were in an era where you could only make 3 subs. Some of these guys were in an era where there was only 1 sub on the bench. And yet we're comparing what their teams were able to win in a season with a squad with 15 people in it with 1 sub versus a squad of 23 players with 7 subs where you can bring 5 players on. And this is my issue with this, is we will pick and choose when we're going to compare eras to eras. And I do think that sometimes it's like the points total thing always makes me laugh. Because last year, Liverpool had no desire to try and set a new points record once they won that league title. It was, we won the league, we're going to go on a boat and be on the piss. That's all we saw in the 90s, in the noughties. So that people go, oh, look, yeah, that Chelsea team was good, but it only got 85 points. That United team only got 82. Yeah, because they won the league with 8-9 games to go and then didn't care. So that's why I find it hard when people go, yeah, that team got 97 points, that team got 100 points, definitely better than those teams. But why are you forgetting why they stopped playing? Why they stopped trying to win points? And that's what I hate about the cross references of eras. It's so frustrating. Is we pick and choose when it's relevant to allow these things. We really, really do. Chelsea have been very shaky at the start of the season. Yes, they have got the points like Liverpool, but unlike Liverpool, they were helped by VAR and haven't scraped a win. Don't see them getting. I mean, there is a train of thought to that. I mean, Palace's goal. I mean, someone did point out that 2 of Liverpool's players were within a meter of Arsenal's wall.
I see that. It was the perception, though. I think Liverpool were, if you actually look at it from a different angle, they were
maybe from behind. Yeah, we'll see. But that Palace goal that was ruled out was just horrendous. And then Fulham's have admitted it should never ever have been a foul. Could those games have gone different if those decisions went against Chelsea? Maybe they could have done, and that's where VAR is hurting football. Is goals change games. We all know this, and had they have stood, things could have been very, very different. But I still think Chelsea will be okay this year.
If you say about VAR, right, and then if you actually went back and you talk about back then, people used to always say that the refs were in Fergie's pockets. Do you know what I mean? So then, like, they're going to say either or. Do you know what I mean? Like,
even if VAR was in, they would have said VAR was in Fergie's pockets.
Well,
so it would have made a difference.
Do you know what I mean? There's always back up their own argument.
The thing is about those arguments is I see City fans say it who are literally under investigation for cheating. Yet the Fergie accusations, it's just fan accusations. My point is this. Show me a single piece of credible evidence that he was paying referees off. Yet all I ever get sent is, oh, look, there's a passage where Fergie said that he influenced referees. All managers try to influence referees by being aggressive, by calling them out, by saying things. Some of them, I mean, Jose Mourinho literally had a referee pave his driveway once upon a time. Like, I don't think he did that to cheat, by the way. He just did it. Every team and every club, every manager tries to influence the referees. Sometimes they do it via sympathy. Sometimes they do it for aggression. Sometimes it goes your way. Sometimes it doesn't. Were referees intimidated by Fergie? Yes. Not because he was cheating, but they were just intimidated by him. Are they now intimidated by Man United? No. So it works in both directions, but people try and twist it. He was paying the refs. That's just a ridiculous accusation that has got no grounds. So
yeah,
prove it. I would be interested to see the wage bill of Premier League teams in the first 9 years of the Premier League. I think that's more accurate to judge Fergie. So the wage bill is the way is the way of doing it now versus today's wage bill, which is incredible. So this is what always happens. So Fergie only the 10th highest spender in the first 9 years. Yeah, but what was the wage bill looking like? I guarantee you it wasn't substantially higher than everybody else's. I guarantee it wasn't, but maybe there's a way we can find that information out. Injuries are not injury, and even then, Fergie having this is why I judge that. Someone said to me, yeah, but Fergie bought less players, which meant he spent more on individual players than the other teams did. Well, it's not Fergie's fault that he had better eye test than these other managers. So when he picked a player, they worked. And then he didn't have to keep buying new players, which meant he could save money up for a year or two and then go, bang, we'll buy Kobbie. Bang, we'll buy Yorkie. Bang, we'll buy Stam. If he'd been wasting money like the other managers on flops, he wouldn't have had the money to have done that. Again, I don't see that as a dig. I see that as a compliment, if we're being honest. Injuries are not an excuse for Pep after spending 450 million, but with Guardiola, Kusanov, Cherky, Foden out injured, and Rodri just played his first game back, I do think the best of City and Pep is yet to come. That is fair. The problem with the no excuses is because of the way people slammed Arsenal for no excuses, everyone's created this is why I don't play those games, because now everyone's created a rod for their own backs. I remember Don's face on stream when Levi Colwell was out and he went, yeah, I'm a bit worried. I was like, you can't have excuses with injuries, can you? Oh shit, I said that all last year, didn't I? This is the thing when you push agendas. You end up creating a rod for your own back, man. Let them go. They're not that fun. Arsenal players go into international break duty, scores goals. It shows. I did see that. Like Mainoo scores a hat trick from midfield, and yet people are like, "I must have been the tactics of the team." Spain are just a Brit.
It was Spain, and they were playing Turkey. Do you know what I
mean? yeah. Had Arsenal been playing a mid-table to bottom half the table team, I'm not saying Mainoo would have scored a hat trick, but they would have scored some goals, mate. They were way at Anfield. This is what's weird, isn't it? It's like, would Spain have done that if they were playing away in Brazil or Argentina? Probably, maybe against Brazil, but probably not. They're playing Turkey. No disrespect to Turkey, they're not one of the best teams in the world. It's such a strange thing. Again, the self-deprecating Arsenal fans, I sometimes think, like, why do you hate your club so much, man? It's so strange to me.
It's so funny that comment, because you could do the same thing about Vert. Like, Vert's is doing shit for Liverpool, but he just scored a free kick yesterday. Like,
but he weren't very good, according to the Germans. I'm going by German Twitter. They were like complaining about him, but I didn't watch the game, so I can't judge.
I watched it. I thought he was poor. I seen stats come out after saying that he was one of the best players, but what I was actually, do you know, right? And sometimes stats can be a little bit deceiving, but what I watched, I thought he was poor. He gave the ball away a good bit, but then he obviously scores the goal, and that's people don't watch the match. They clip up the highlight, and then they're like, "Oh, look!" This is what I mean. Like, I think you can criticize Verts and say like he hasn't been the best, and me as a Liverpool fan, he hasn't been the best, hasn't had the best start. But Liverpool didn't buy him for 3 games. You know what I mean? Buy him for the next decade, because he's so young and the talent that he'll obviously will come true.
No, I agree. Viewers, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Premier League football's back this week. We're back later this evening with 6-sided, so make sure you're all back with us here at 5 p.m. This is going to redirect you across to, I think, Hussam's channel. He's got a Liverpool stream this morning, so if you're up for watching that, get across there and watch the boys over there talk Liverpool. The title, Liverpool versus everyone. Everyone hates us, and I love it, is what his title is. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in, everyone who's liked, everyone who's subscribed and shared. Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you all again soon. Peace.